Big exciting news for your afternoon as the push for hazard pay, push for grants, EIDL, push for that Lifeline grant, $50,000. $50,000? CDC grant, Main Street lending, $100,000. Oh my God, it's getting good. It's getting really good. The push is underway to get it done. Wall Street says it's going to get done. The bond market thinks it's going to get done. The push to get second stimulus is front page, and it's incredible, great news. And I'm glad you joined me for another recording of Purple. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE, and I hope you're good and safe on a day in which there's incredible, promising, good news across the board. To get your second stimulus done, there's talks about renewed negotiations and renewed efforts to get second stimulus done right after the election, and the amounts are going to be covered in this video. Big amounts. Really exciting, great news. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do. Go to the front of the channel, subscribe. Subscribe because you don't want to miss a video on this channel. We'll be changing up the programming schedule tomorrow because of election day, and we're adding and joining and removing some video series. 28 ends its run yesterday. It's been an incredible run for that great hit series, so I don't want you to miss any new shows. Also, like this video, it helps with the video algorithm. Videos have been ranking number 1 and 2 worldwide today, so keep it up. Really great news. In this video, I'll be going over the push for hazard pay, the push for Lifeline, that $50,000 grant under the second stimulus package, the push for the EIDL grant, then the Main Street lending program, $100,000, what the bond market's saying about today, where the new concerns is about lockdown stimulus, and then whether or not you will also see other forms of grants in the second stimulus package by way of that $400 to $300 billion for state and local. Ooh. It's getting good. I love some money. Talk to me with some money. All right, let's get into the breaking news. The breaking news as you start your Monday afternoon is that Wall Street believes that a deal is right there for second stimulus. They believe it's coming right away. They say, despite the election, which everyone's a little sick of hearing about, they all say that stimulus is going to get formulated right away. In all the broadcast business news interviews today, stimulus, 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 that's all they were talking about. In fact, as we sat here on Friday, Wall Street was talking about other things that was making them nervous, like election uncertainty and contested election. They're not really talking about that anymore. All they're talking about is stimulus and lockdown stimulus. Stimulus for now is the stimulus from the spring up to the present. And then that's second stimulus. And then they're concerned about stimulus from now to March, which is lockdown stimulus. The Treasury yields changed little on Monday amidst uncertainty about the U.S. elections. The Treasury yield on the 10-year Treasury note fell just below 1 basis point to 0.845, while the yield on the 30-year Treasury bond traded slightly lower to 1.630, CNBC reports. This is a bit earlier on Friday and earlier today, where the bond market was up. And bond analysts said, you know why it's up? Because they believe stimulus is coming. Stimulus is paid by debt, and debt is paid by bonds, and bonds are tied to the Treasury. And they say that the bond traders believe that stimulus is coming. They looked at also other issues, like U.S. is continuing to see a surge of cases of COVID-19 with 81,000 new infections on Sunday. That number is now growing to upwards of 100 to 110,000 potentially. And now there is renewed concern about whether or not that stimulus would float sooner rather than later. And guess what? Wall Street thinks it's sooner. Wall Street's really pushing a stimulus front page today. I've never seen a day in which all the major news articles mention stimulus. All the analysts on the air talk about stimulus. They're talking about almost nothing but stimulus. They had featured articles today. One article talked about people who are impacted by lack of stimulus. A person said, I did not choose to be unemployed. None of us did. I kept my faith because of God, Lord Jesus. But the selfishness and carelessness of our government has sickened me to the core. Another person said, I know there are families who had it harder than we do, and it hurts to me to heart. It doesn't seem that anything has formulated yet. Another one says, I've always been proud to be American, but this is sickening. This is from an Idaho resident. Why are we working every day and contributing to society when this is when we need help and we're not getting it done? Another person said, how are we sitting here and Congress is not being pushed? They're letting poor people suffer. I don't understand it. This is not from the comments of this channel, because they certainly sound like the comments of this channel. This is from a broadcast news major channel, CNBC's feature report on stimulus. The push is underway, and the push is very loud and clear, and that's what's incredibly good. You know, Germany went on partial lockdown on November 2nd, and the terms include that basically most of the businesses are shut down in a limited fashion, not the complete fashion that you're seeing in Germany, in England, and France. But now the concern is how much lockdown could be coming to the United States. You know, Trump and Biden are pitting words versus words on how much grants and how much stimulus are at issue by really pitting the issue about lockdowns. But ultimately, the lockdowns are not determined by the president, they're determined by the governor, county, and city officials. But here comes the good news. The good news is the second stimulus package has a lot of grant money. So let me go over that grant money right now. First, a lot of people have been asking me about the Lifeline grant. Yes, that $50,000 grant in the second stimulus package. $50,000 grant? Oh my goodness. Let me go over that. First of all, it is a grant that specifically is called the Lifeline grant. I'm not making up these terms. This is, you know, they love these words. And it would provide you a grant of $50,000 or your cost of goods sold 2019 less of the two, the lesser of the two. So the net result is, as I've been advising viewers in private, because a lot of people have been asking me a lot of questions about that grant, could I get $50,000? You know, if your cost of goods sold are through the roof in 2019. So otherwise, no, you would get the lesser two. So you get the cost of goods sold. So if you're an Uber and Lyft driver, I have a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers on the channel, and your cost of goods sold last year was $1,000, and you're looking for $50,000, you're going to get $1,000. If you're a truck driver, though, and your cost of goods sold because you had insurance, I hope you're listing all your cost of goods sold. You had your insurance, your repairs, all those things, and it was like 10K. You would get $10,000 as a grant. Incredible, great news. Then there's the EIDL grant. Oh, baby, it's coming back. Yeah, it is coming back. It is in the second stimulus package. Third, there's a CDC grant. This is all for frontline workers. These are people who work in grocery stores, nurses, anyone that's a frontline worker. So as you've seen so far when I've set up to the 7-minute mark of this video, I've now covered 3 grants, and they ostensibly cover almost all my viewers, with the exception of SSDI, SSI, and Social Security and Railroad benefits. Guess what? I got grants for you coming up right as well. So when we talk about the Lifeline grant, that's for anyone who's a sole practitioner or small business owner. Same thing for EIDL. Then we go to the CDC grant. We're talking about frontline workers. Those are people who could be a W-2. So you don't have to be a business owner or a single business or a sole practitioner. You can be a frontline worker. Then I got another grant for you. The next grant is the state bailout. That state bailout, the way the Republicans want to do it, is that of the $300 billion, 100% of it is going to frontline workers. So the money would go to the states or cities or counties, and then they would give it to you. So this is also another grant. Then you're like, okay, how many more grants does he have behind curtain number 1? Then there is rent grant. There's a rent grant, and that qualifies for almost everyone. Let me say it this way. Rent grant does qualify for everyone under a certain economic level. So let's say you don't make a lot of money. and you're on SSDI, you qualify for it. Let's say you don't make a lot of money, but you're also an Uber Lyft driver, you also qualify for it. It's not dependent upon what you do for a living or whether you work or not. It's simply how much money you make per year. And so if you're on SSDI, SSI, you would get that money. Next, there's a food grant in there as well. You see how these things are sort of piling up. There's a lot of grants in there. And so ultimately, when we talk about hazard pay grant, and we're talking about that $10,000 that come from you from under the CARES Act, under the second stimulus package, first vision, it's gone. Would it go back in there? I don't know. But now you see that there's so many grant programs in the second stimulus package, it's reassuring. What's important to understand, because I get this question a lot, is if I get one of these things, do I get another? Yes. So if you get a stimulus check, you can go get a grant. If you get a stimulus check, if you're on SSDI, can you get a grant for food? Yes. Can you get a grant for rent? Yes. How about if I have EIDL grant, can I get a Lifeline grant? Yes. The only place where we've seen a contradiction where it says you cannot get both is PPP and EIDL together. Then there is the existing grants from state and local. Oh boy, this is really good. So a lot of states have grants now from CARES Act 1. This is from the first stimulus package. And they're starting to send out that money. That's $150 billion of CARES Act 1 money that they're now sending out. Use or lose. Yesterday I detailed that in Pennsylvania. The governor of Pennsylvania said, you know what? We're going to send out another round of grants to frontline workers as a hazard pay grant. It's one of 3 states that has them, and they said that the 3 states have absolutely been a categorical success. And the Brookings Institute, I think that was the company, in a new market research said, this has been such a big success. We're urging that other states do the same. Now, their grant is great. It goes to people who are part-time employed, full-time employed, laid off, overtime, anything and everything. And what's important for you to understand is you're owed these grants. You're valued. But as we sit here today, the other concern, which I sort of tipped off on the video before this, but I forgot to cover into detail, is that there's a big worry that there's going to be a run on prices and a shortage of supplies if there's a lockdown. A new report out today suggests that, we already know that there's milk and eggs are going up. We already know that groceries are going up. But now there's a concern that there may be a shortage of them as well, like we saw when the first pandemic hit. That concern is being compounded by worries that people will make a rush on items as lockdowns ensue. Biden and Trump were talking about this over the last 2 days. Trump said, if you vote for Joe Biden, it means no kids in school, no graduation, no weddings, no Christmas, no thank you, no 4th of July together. Other than that, you'll have a wonderful life. Can't get to see anybody, but that's all right. Biden then says, if I win, it's going to take a lot of hard work to end this pandemic. I do promise this. We'll start on day 1 doing the right things. We cannot afford 4 more years of this. Who'd rather spend his time desperately trying to strip people of health care than to put health care into its own plan? What's important to understand is that lockdowns are coming across the country, and those lockdowns mean that you need not second stimulus checks, but also third stimulus. What's important to understand is that when I describe, for example, the Pennsylvania hazard pay, that's the cover for work that was done, I think it was from August to October. Yeah, you see why I'm pausing there, because they're not talking about what's coming up. November, December, January, February. What if you work in a grocery store? Are you going to get hazard pay? Is the business going to give you hazard pay? Is the city going to give you hazard pay? Is the federal government going to give you hazard pay? That's what's causing a concern. San Francisco's Mayor London Breed announced a few days ago that it was putting a temporary pause on reopening businesses because of COVID-19 cases. This pause is a precautionary measure to ensure that San Francisco can work to safely reopen and help move San Francisco from moving backwards and be safe. Our goal is to respond quickly and carefully with the data closely and making decisions based upon that data, science, and facts, said the Director of Health, Grant Colfax. The data is once again telling us to pause and not do indoor activity. But Wall Street is very positive about the situation. The question is, how positive can it remain? The interesting thing that you need to stay with me is that when I launched this channel on April 25th, my focus was to get you money. And it still remains to get you money. And it will remain to get you money. And you see when I'm talking about so many grants in such a short period of time, that a lot of things will be coming in that second stimulus package. First, Wall Street says there will be a second stimulus package. It's going to happen. Second, they're concerned and they're urging Congress to do a third stimulus package and get that ready. Fourth, is that fourth or third? Fourth, it's going to take a certain amount of effort to get these grants going and to figure out how and where to apply for it. I'm going to help you. I'm not leaving you. I'm going to get through this with you together. So let me answer some incredible questions and comments from yesterday. Dejonde, let's get it done. Gail, hello, LA and Purple Power family. Kazunek, I came out of a store and a guy who worked at a local store was sitting on the curb crying. I talked to him. He didn't have any money. After we settled down, we had a good laugh, and he went to the store and bought some food. I watched from afar. By the way, I'm not doing great, but he was worse. That's wonderful. I love that comment. Matt, it's about time that states stand up for our people. Amen. Betty Black. Good evening, Mr. Purple Power and the Purple Power family. Sandra, my boyfriend is a forklift driver. He's worked through all this, but he's not only giving him, they have not given him hazard pay yet. Robert Liu. They need to get off their butts, Congress and Senate, and get it done. Evelyn Davis, we need the money in our hands. John Yummy, purple to the power to the purple. Kathleen Lane, I definitely deserve hazard pay. I'm a teacher in daycare and work through it all. Amen, Kathleen Lane. I agree with you. Dreamweaver Serenity, an all-time viewer of this channel. Good afternoon, LA. Good afternoon, Dreamweaver. We need to push for this hazard pay. You know my reasons behind it. I do, Dreamweaver. Those that put their lives on the line are working during this pandemic deserve it. Exclamation point, you do. Angela, not trying to be a jerk, but I worked as a nurse trying to take care of COVID patients. Isolating myself from my family and friends. It shouldn't matter what you make. You deserve hazard pay. That's very well said. Absolutely. If you have questions or comments in today's video, I believe you do. Drop them in the comments below. I might feature them in tomorrow's recording. Coming up next is McConnell versus Trump and then Street and Stimulus. Go to the Funniest channel, subscribe so you don't miss a video. There's a lot of great stuff coming out today, so I don't want you to miss anything. Also like this video. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and save LA for more.